Meeting is being recorded.
Kindly do note that the entire session is being photographed and video recorded for educational and promotional purposes. Now, to tell us a bit more about ReBitVlogs, I would like to invite Dr. Zeenat Khan, the assistant professor here at UOWD and founding creative mind behind the Majlis, to tell us a bit about it.
Hey, thank you, Vidhi, so much. I'm really excited to be able to do this virtual session with everybody. This is the first time we've actually gone online. This is the eighth session for ReBitVlogs Majlis. We started this in 2017. The whole idea was to provide an innovative platform that was, to engage students in discussions on pressing issues such as responsible business and technology use. We believe it's a link between students and academics with industry experts, and we've been able to create an environment of awareness, facilitating dialogues towards sustainable, responsible future. Every semester, we highlight an area of responsible either business or IT use and leadership in order to shed light on the importance of all aspects of human life, technology, and business. So quite exciting for us that we are actually being able to bring this live, given the current situation and the crisis that's going on around the world, to be able to bring about a continuity in learning. So we are quite excited. As I mentioned with this session, that this one is actually also part of the initiative that where we applied for car grants last 2 years running. And as you can see in the slides in front of you, the first year we got to bring 5 students from Wollongong from Australia to Dubai, and they engaged with our students and the experts here. The topic that time was about fashion and ethics in fashion world in general. This time we are looking a little bit more specific, and the topic is about technology in fashion. So once again, thank you so much to our industry speakers and of course to our students for joining us, and for Vidhi to be emceeing and moderating the comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Zinat. The theme for today's Majlis is technology, innovation, and fashion, boon or bane. The fashion industry is vibrant and ever growing. Paris, New York, Milan, recently Dubai, cities across the globe are ever thriving and vibrant with designers, models, and fashion conscious people, all eager to stay ahead of the fashion. But the industry is also plagued with its own set of ethical dilemmas, from low wages to hazardous workplaces to poor safety records, environmental pollutions to manipulative marketing. The industry has seen its share of irresponsible practices. Moreover, with the increase in technology immersion, fashion industry has had its own copycat problems. Forever 21 has imitated everything from a phone case made by an LA indie brand to a popular feminist to a popular feminist tee to Instagram famous swimwear to a quote from a CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund finalist. And these are just examples from 2017. During an exchange study tour, students from Australia engaged with students from UAE and industry experts to pose questions on how technology could perhaps be used to save and protect authenticity of design and fashion. Where technology has made copying and reproducing simple, easy, high quality, can it also be used to protect it? Can entrepreneurial innovations in fashion have social implications for protecting and encouraging local and indigenous design through technological advances such as blockchain, 3D printing, and digital ink printing, to name a few? So, how do we go forward? What is the answer to this dilemma? Are these issues real ethical issues in IT and businesses? This invited panel sifts through the sands of ethical dilemmas faced by business owners, developers, managers around the world, their consequences, and the need to understand the impact of technology on intellectual property in fashion and beyond. We are honored and excited to welcome our panelists today. Professor Dr. May Elbarachi, Faculty of Engineering and Information Sciences. Dr. May needs no introduction. She recently got promoted as the Associate Dean of Research at FEIS and next generation network expert, currently teaching the subjects of information and communication security, distributed systems, and cloud computing, as well as programming in the Bachelor of Computer Science and the Bachelor of Information Technology programs. We also have with us today Shahira Anwar. Shahira Anwar is a part of UOWD alumni. Her experience includes working at Harper's Bazaar Arabia, one of the leading luxury fashion magazines in the region, and a digital content creating website named Katakat, which followed an unfiltered approach to normalizing taboo concepts in the society. She currently works as a multimedia producer at the Express Tribune, one of the biggest English language newspapers in Pakistan affiliated with the New York Times, and covers topics ranging from film and fashion to women and minority rights. Kenza Bozuba has been living in the UAE for 9 years. While completing her master's degree in strategic marketing at the University of Wollongong, she joined Chalhoub Group, where she handled the merchandising analysis for Dolce Gabbana. As a junior merchandising analyst, Kinza was in charge of training sales representatives on new collections and making sure that a healthy stock is maintained in order to optimize the sell-through and improve the profit margins. She was then promoted to the role of junior buyer for the same brand, where she was in charge of analyzing and buying cross categories and genders. In 2017, Kinza joined Adidas as a senior merchandiser for Reebok Performance and Classics, whereby she led the creation of the ranges, including the forecasting and pricing. In order to select our student panelists, we had an initiative on campus. The storytelling and poster competition at UOWD took place this semester. 3 winning teams were chosen on judges' scores and popular voting. They are Hisham and Faris, Adam and Wale, and Zobia and Suhaib. Finally, the panel is moderated by Dr. Zinat Reza Khan. Now, with a minute to organize the panel, we will move to the next segment of today's Majlis, the panel discussion. I'll please request everyone that during the discussion, when the Majlis begins, please switch off your phones. Do not walk around or move in and out of your rooms. We're recording the session.
Hey, thank you so much, Vidhi, for the introduction and the introductory part of this Majlis. Now we will begin with the panel. As Vidhi has introduced the panelists, we've got 3 experts with us and we've got 6 students. That is the beauty of ReBitVlogs. The whole purpose is that we want to ensure that we have a good mix of industry, academics, as well as students engaging in conversation, discussion, and debate on a topic. This particular topic is actually very close to my heart because about 7 years ago in April, then one of the biggest man-made disasters actually took place. This was the Rana Plaza building collapse that happened in Bangladesh, which it was an 8-story building which collapsed and killing more than 1,100 people, maiming and injuring more than 2,200. And to date, we've got more than 300 people who are missing and there's no news. This kind of shook the world of fashion and has really made people take a step back and look at what went wrong. And from looking at governance to policies to management leadership to individual people, how they see it, how they see the jobs, how they see the income, to, of course, technology. Everything played a part in that disaster. So in a way, it's like a tribute to all the victims of Rana Plaza that we somehow end up having this topic every April whenever we're doing a ReBitVlogs Majlis. So coming to looking really at technology and how that has been impacting fashion, as Vidhi has mentioned, technology is a tool. So in every field, it has two sides, a good side and a bad side. It depends on how it's being used. And even in the fashion, it has had its ups and downs. So what I would like to do is move on to our first group of students, Zobia and Suhaib, who are here to represent the designers' perspectives and tell us a little bit about what you think and how you think technology has impacted the designers in the fashion world.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Suhaib and Zobia. Okay, so we're going to be talking about fashion and technology and how it impacts the designers in particular. So, as you know, using technology, designers can create new patterns, styles. They are now able to mix styles with sustainable materials such as bioengineered textiles and leather made from microbes. And also, with the help of artificial intelligence, fashion designers can now predict upcoming trends dictated by the current fast changing environment of fashion. This can also minimize the environmental impact of manufacturing and production processes. Designers in the fashion industry can now know ahead of time when there isn't enough capacity for manufacturers to carry certain collections using business intelligence tools, which can contribute to having a higher operating profit. The advent of digital marketplaces has meant design can now be outsourced to designers from all over the world, so it's not restricted to a particular place. Syncing a database with a business intelligence tool could estimate inventories all over the world. And obviously, as we know, fashion accessories doubling up as smart devices. We have to talk about Apple Watch, then the Levi's smart jacket, which was a collaboration with Google. And another recommendable example is Ralph Lauren's uniforms for the US Winter Olympic and Paralympic teams, which featured a heating system made from electronic printed conductive inks, which was printed in carbon and silver ink in the interior of athletes' jackets. And moreover, I want to talk about how fashion industry has helped with the pollution problem. So, as you know, fashion industry is like is the second biggest industry responsible for water pollution. So, there have been tools which have helped to reduce this. So a very recommendable one has been air dye, which uses air instead of water as a pressure component for like inking t-shirts and clothes. And another thing that contributed towards saving the environment was when Adidas had a collaboration with Parley for Oceans, where they collected the plastics from coastal areas and they use that to make shoes. And they have a particular line for that as well. And also, Adidas did another thing that they have another line called Terex, where they use like undyed substances instead of water to dye their shoes. So I think that is how technology has impacted fashion in the positive way. Although there are a few negative things, such as with technology, the like physical stores have reduced, but I think moreover it's positive. However, I would like Suhaib to add more points to this.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about like some problems and how technology helps solve them. So one problem with fashion industry is using fur in clothing, which leads to animal cruelty, like the hunting of foxes to make fur clothing. Now, with technology, they were able to make artificial fur or fake fur, they call it. That is like the first version of it was made from alpaca wool. So it's like it doesn't harm animals. So that's the technology that helped like reduce that problem. Another way technology helps fashion is using there's a counterfeit problem where some manufacturers make fake make an item and call it of that certain brand, and it's not really of that certain brand. So you can use like QR code technology to like add it on the product, and that would link you to the company website that helps you verify if the product was made from that company. And third thing I want to talk about is like awareness. Like people aren't aware of how ethical companies are. So so there are like apps that help you like find out how ethical companies are. So one of those apps, for example, we have is the Good on You app. It's an app like this. It shows you the you select the company and shows you the labor, environment, and yeah, the animal, how they treat the animals, and yeah, how ethical they are basically. So you can decide if you want to buy from them or not. And in here, Adidas is like 4 stars and 3 stars on animals. So yeah, so these are all my talking points for now.
So it's
Zubin, you
very
wanna?
interesting that both you and Zobia you've mentioned a couple of negative impacts, but it seems majority of the impact has been very positive when it comes to actual designers and technology. That's so fascinating. I'm going to move on to looking at the industry and governance, and then customers, and then maybe we'll come back to you guys. I do have a couple of questions for you, but I'll hold on to that for a while. So Adam and Weil, you guys are up next. If you could just tell us a little bit about the impact, what you think would be the impact of technology on fashion from the industry and governance point of view.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So when we're thinking about the government point of view, we'd like to focus on what the government would actually care about, which is protecting its citizens, enforcing laws, and about its own economy. So when we talk about fashion in this sense, what we saw is how blockchain would affect these particular aspects. So if we can apply blockchain into the process of making clothes, you can see, for example, that we can step by step see everything that's necessary and everything that happens from the beginning of the production up until it gets to the factory, up until it gets to the consumer itself. So if I know each step of it going from the factory to the consumer, I can know if anything happens in between, whether legal, illegal, or any kind of problem arises. I would definitely know all the parties that are involved in the situation. So here, for example, when I talk about protecting my citizens, let's say if there's a counterfeit product, right, that I don't want my citizens to be taking part of, we could use blockchain to know whether or not a certain product is counterfeit. Also, if you use blockchain, you would force every factory to be a part of this, let's say, part of the supply chain. If the factory has to apply and be an official sort of member of this blockchain, they would also have to make sure that they're protecting their own employees, because at the end of the day, now that they're being followed and they can be checked on whenever they, not whenever they want to, but whenever they are checked, they can be, oh, okay, this factory does this to its own employees and stuff. So they wouldn't want that reputation upon themselves, because then people will just not take part. For example, if I'm Zara, I don't want some factory that violates the human rights to be in my blockchain process, because then I'll be like, oh, damn, this is not a good person to be associated with in my complete total supply chain. So you'd get rid of this or not go with this factory that abuses, let's say, children or stuff. Another part is you could also talk about AI.
I'd like to add one point. Blockchain will also help protect local brands. So for example, you will know that you're actually buying from a local brand, because blockchain, it removes the counterfeit problem. And then the other problem is that of the privacy of the citizens, which Wai will talk about.
Okay. One more thing, for example, let's say you are against the use of polyester in your clothing products, or you're against the use of whatever product it is. You could check through blockchain, let's say, what kind of factory made the certain product you're looking at, and be like, oh, okay, this factory uses polyester, I'm against polyester, or I'm against some certain unethical what do you call it, material, I don't want to buy the certain product. So now going to the privacy issue, I don't know if you guys heard, there was a story about Target, and they kept sending this teen ads for diapers and all these health pregnancy ads and all these stuff, and the father got very angry with Target. he was like, please stop harassing my daughter. Why do you keep sending her, diapers and all these ads? She's not pregnant. And it turns out that Target found out that she was pregnant way before her father, simply because they used AI technology and recognized through her buying patterns that she's actually pregnant. So the use of technology here breached her privacy without actually breaching her privacy. It's this insane balance of using loyalty cards and your own patterns to find out what's something you're going to do in the future, or what you've already done or are going to do compared to what other people did. So this is a part of technology that we're worried about, where we don't know how you're going to. Yes, we like loyalty cards. They give us few points. They give us a lot of things, but in exchange of what? Our privacy. So this is something that we're also very worried about. AI. The best part about AI
Obviously,
is. Mhm.
as the government, right? The government needs to come up with policies and laws that will force companies to give their customers enough education of how their data is being used and how it is stored, to make it all transparent. So this is the government jobs to come up with these policies.
Do you think they're capable? Do you think they're in a position to be able to come up with these policies to protect customers?
Depending on what rights they're trying to protect of the customers and how they can do it without impeding upon the rights of the actual companies themselves, because we don't want to hurt the and you don't want to hurt the economy as well. And AI is very great because you can just protect let's say you have a local artist that created a certain brand. If another brand is using their work, you can just simply use AI to scavenge all the different websites and check whether or not it's been copyrighted. And the last thing is just sustainability. Sustainability is very important. We don't know how technology will do it in the future, but we know that technology definitely has to do something about it, because as the government, I don't want my country to be having a lot of pollution. I don't want my country to just be taking part in greenhouse gases or greenhouse emissions. So a lot of people take part in fast fashion, and as the government, I want people to buy stuff. So I'm okay with them being cheap, but if it's stuff that hurts our emissions and stuff, then they'll have to have a balance between, oh, I want my country to be number one in producing clothes, but I don't also want to harm my country by having a lot of air travel or greenhouse emissions or textile emissions. So yeah, that's it.
So interesting that you guys have brought in a lot of the points which actually directly relate to consumers, who are our next stakeholders, Hisham and Faraz, who are going to be telling us about how, from the customer's point of view, they see technology impacting fashion. So let's have Hisham and Faris share their views, and then I will open up the panel for the student speakers to ask any questions and clarify before we move on to our experts for the day. So Hisham and Faris.
Hi, good morning. So, as you just stated, our point of view or our stakeholder POV is going to be the customers and consumers. And the first thing we're going to discuss is, as a consumer, what advantages has technology brought me in terms of fashion?
Right.
I think the most straight and forward one would be the ability to buy quickly and cheaply through e-commerce. So we have sites right now which the whole point of them is being dedicated to sell original, authentic materials at a lower price. And you can try them. If you don't like it, you can give it back. It's very convenient. Another thing is the fact that thanks to technology, we have bigger manufacturing plants, and that allows us to buy, again, cheaper, authentic clothing. And we're also able to stay more up to date through marketing. We're able to know what exactly is trending now, what's the current fashion. So these are the current advantages. However, there are also some advantages Hisham would say right now.
Yes, Hisham. Hisham, are you able to join us?
Oh yeah, my mic was turned off. All right.
Okay,
Yes.
welcome. There we
Yeah,
go.
I was saying some of the disadvantages we have from a customer point of view is that
Mhm.
as a customer, it's very hard to authenticate a brand that is it it's original or not. So, and this takes us to the counterfeiting uh, point they were talking about my colleagues earlier.
Right.
Because of the technological advancement, now it's even harder to know or authenticate that this product is original or not. And a lot of the times, people are confused and sometimes they buy the wrong product thinking that it is the original one. So this is an issue concerning customers too. Another thing is that I think also there, because of the rise of social media, and the fashion being part of our lives, we have mental issues, or let's say the fear of missing out. Because right now, if you open social media, uh, we're all looking at people with wearing brands and everything. And you as a person would feel the pressure sometimes that you need to wear those brands and be with the trend. So I think the rise of social media has influenced this, and this isn't particularly a healthy mindset to be in relation to the customers. A third thing I think is that also as customers, we don't want to feel ourselves contributing to pollution. It's also a point that my colleagues have mentioned earlier. And because of the technological advancement in manufacturing, it has caused mass production, which also causes pollution, like my colleague Zobia have also mentioned, water pollution, etc. So as a customer, I don't want to feel that I'm contributing to this. So there should be some sort of uh, like a way to let the customer who's buying a product, a fashion product, let them know how environmental friendly that product they're buying. Um, so currently, technology is being used in both good and bad ways. Like the impact on the customer, it's both good and bad, as the points mentioned by Paris. We have also good things, uh, but we also have an idea to propose to help customers authenticate the brand of their product, of the product they're buying, and see the condition it was manufactured in. Now I will leave you with Faris to explain more the proposed idea.
Thank you. So, like Hisham said, we currently believe technology, of course, it has positives, negatives, but overall, right now, it's being used in a negative way more than not. But that doesn't mean it have to stay that way. And we're not saying this is the God-sent solution, but it's a solution of how technology can save many major problems in fashion.
Okay, so
And
let's just hang on to the solutions. We will come back to the solutions. For now, I want to go back to Zobia and Suhaib. You guys spoke a lot about the positive side of technology. Now that you've heard from the governance perspective and from the consumers, do you have anything to add?
I would like to talk about the pollution aspect since I spoke about it earlier. So what I think is that right now designers are realizing the importance of having an environmental aspect to their designs because given current market conditions, other than the ethical part, even investors itself are more interested in investing in sustainable companies. So I do think that right now companies and designers in particular are going towards a more environmental perspective, like how I mentioned Adidas itself before. Like Adidas is one of the most sustainable companies right now. And other than that, like I mentioned, another technology, air dye, where it aims at reducing water pollution. And moreover, there is another thing called carbon pricing, which gives like basically it puts a price on the carbon emissions of a particular company that can also help the consumers understand what are the environmental and ecological footprint of a particular company. and of the design. Like if you want to see for like Adidas, you can go and see the carbon pricing. You can know the amount of carbon emissions. And another point that you said that about customers knowing the ecological impact. So this can be one of your indicators. Another indicator, Suhey would, I think, better talk about it. As you mentioned it earlier, the Good On You app. Over to you, sir.
Yes, Sohaib.
Suheb, your mic is on mute.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, okay. I have a few problems with something the industry and government said. They said the government job is to teach the population. I think the government job is to regulate the industry, like add laws to the industry that they can't sell this, they can't sell this. Because if they start teaching the population, this can be seen as like infringing on the free market rights of that country. And the other problem is the when they said like the example where the some store knew that the daughter is pregnant before her dad did.
Yes.
Now,
Target.
if the data was collected illegally, then the store should be like sued and like you know, legal action should be taken against the store. But most of the time, the data is taken legally, just the customers not knowing what data they're giving. So I think it's like the customer's fault that they're not like paying attention to what data they're giving to the website. Yeah. For the customer stakeholders, I don't have any questions.
Okay, I think this is the
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to add, like as he said, like sometimes we do have like anywhere that we agree, or like even when you're logging into Instagram, like a point that was made earlier in the lecture, you do agree to terms and conditions. So one of that is that your data and your habits are going to be tracked. So if the data that is collected through social media websites, that is not illegal. So collecting data through that, I don't think the designers or the retailers would be doing anything wrong. But if anything that is illegal, I think the government is the one who is supposed to be taking any action towards the illegal, having better regulations or policies. That's just what
okay.
I wanted to add.
I think this is a very good point, moment where we can switch to one of our experts, Dr. May. She comes with immense amount of experience from innovation, and so we would like to throw this at Dr. May. So coming from technology background and from the aspect of technology, because we know it's a tool at the end of the day, it can be used as good or bad, of course. But from everything that you've just heard, what do you think is the role of technology in fashion? Good, bad, ugly?
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to this amazing platform of discussion. And thanks, Zinat, for organizing this beautifully as usual. So, yeah, I'm really biased because I'm coming from the tech side. I'm a big advocate of technology. But you guys made excellent points about the fact that technology is simply a tool, and humans and the behavior of humans is what makes it, good or bad, essentially, of how it's employed. So you touch upon many important points related to copyright infringements and privacy issues and all of that. I would like to discuss and debate basically some few technologies that can help us solve these problems and build in trust in the products, essentially. Because one of the key concerns from what I'm hearing is related to trust. So if you think about it, we can't do commerce without trust, right? Yet we manufacture this trust using certain techniques, or certain measures and checks and balances. And when we see things like counterfeit products, for example, or things being copied and so on, obviously this is bad for the original, manufacturers or designers. But it could also be it could have serious implications in certain cases. Think about counterfeit cosmetics, for example. I just saw a documentary on that on Netflix. You guys should see it. It's incredible how they create these fake cosmetics and cosmetic products, and then people get sick because they use this on their skin and on their body, and it harms them. So now there is a health issue associated with that. and they're becoming better and better at producing products that look exactly like the original, where you put the two next to each other and even the original designer wouldn't be able to differentiate, you know? So this is a huge problem that should be mitigated. I think there is a number of emerging technologies that are very interesting that can be combined together to mitigate these issues. So if you give me a minute, I would like to talk to you and so that you can think about this maybe in your innovative solutions later on. I'm sure you heard about AI and IoT and blockchain. These are three very big buzzwords in the world of technology. But imagine a solution that combines the three of them, where you would have sensors that are used to track a product, and you know exactly where it has been and where it is in the life cycle or the supply chain. You combine to that blockchain, where all the information about the product from the production point of view until the retail and distribution is logged as immutable. Nobody can change the information. You know exactly where it's coming from. It is every single transaction related to the product is signed with a cryptographic signature of the person who's producing the transaction. So we know the provenance of the product. If it was produced in some shady place somewhere, then we know that this is not the original, for example. And add to that the capabilities of AI that will be able to analyze all this information and actually give us some kind of prediction about supply and demand and how much we need from this product and how much is required. So I do believe strongly that the right combination of technologies can actually help us solve some of these trust issues and counterfeit issues and so on. Let me know what I'm throwing the ball to you guys to comment on that.
I think it's fantastic that you brought up the point of trust, because I think trust is what brings all the stakeholders together, particularly in an industry like fashion, because it's not just about, oh, okay, it's a brand, but it's also about exactly what you said about the makeup that we put on our face, the clothes that we wear, the shoes that we put on our feet. So it has a real face to it, which can have serious implications, not just physically for the person, the consumer, but also for the manufacturer, the employees in the manufacturing industry. So if we think about it from that perspective, and you say, okay, so we need to ensure that we use technology to bring about trust. I will just bring in this example of this point that was brought in during our tour from last year, where the Australian students brought up this point that Aboriginal design in Australia is a big problem because it has sort of lost its way. Because of technology, because of the way it has been copied and recreated and reproduced so many times, and by people who are not from that background, who don't understand the design and what it signifies or what it means, that to the point where it is so distorted that it has lost the meaning totally. So would you say in a situation like that, that the example that you've given of how we could use AI and blockchain, do you think it's something that could protect indigenous design for different communities?
Yes, absolutely, because if you use such a system, this is kind of like a network that everyone has to be part in order to sell their products, right? So if an Aboriginal designer needs to sell their product, they will be a node in this network. The transaction that they made related to producing this or designing this or selling it will be recorded in there. If somebody else who's not an Aboriginal designer is trying to sell these products, we will know and identify them immediately. And actually the beauty about this is there is actually a consensus mechanism in this network where you have some key nodes with some authority, like regulatory nodes, that actually validate every single transaction. So if a shady designer is coming in and trying to put forth a product that is fake, that's not going to go through. It's not going to be validated and it's going to be rejected. So we're trying to use this technology to build in trust. the system automatically using algorithms, using techniques, using networks, and so on. So yes, if everyone is part of this network, we'll be able to do it. But it's very difficult to kind of deploy it at a large scale because you need to buy in, right, of everybody.
Right.
And they need to understand if they're not part of this network, then they're out of the system completely.
Completely. Okay,
Yeah.
and that brings me actually to Kenza. Kenza comes to us from purely fashion industry. So Kenza, you've heard what everybody's had to say, and Dr. input from technology perspective. What are your thoughts on technology and how it has impacted or is impacting the fashion world?
I totally agree with Dr. May, but what I can say, yes, I agree with the trust, but then there is privacy. And then if everybody would go and log in everything that they have bought and from the first chain until the end, then where is the privacy? And for example, for high fashion brands like Dolce Gabbana, who we know like they don't produce thousands and thousands of items, but they can only produce 50 or hundreds all over the world, and we know exactly how they work. For example, in a small factory in Florence or in Milan or in Sicily, with the very few, they mainly employ, for example, sorry, grandmothers. So in a specific time, and they work like hand work, all of them, and so these you cannot really register them in your blockchain because it's really manual work. It's handcraft that you need to that's the reason why it's super expensive. It's the manual work. We cannot compare, for example, a high luxury brand with the sport brand like Adidas or Nike or New Balance, who are producing like thousands and thousands of the same article. And like, I don't know if you get my point, but there is as well a privacy. So yes, there is trust. And for example, when I was giving the trainings to all the staff regarding the product, every single article has the story, how it's made, how it was taught at the beginning, how it's made, and how we have to sell it. It's completely different from the sportswear industry. So we shouldn't mix, like, yes, it's fashion, it's retail, but it's two different industries, I would say.
So basically what you're telling us is in certain areas of fashion, this work, but in other areas, it's not going to be working. Yeah. Dr.
I
May,
don't think
what do you
so.
think?
Yeah.
With
So
a case,
thank you very much.
like,
Yeah.
like Dolce & Gabbana, like
Yeah.
what Kenza said.
So yeah, thank you very much, Kenza. I'm very excited to hear your point of view from the fashion and luxury fashion side. You're absolutely right. I think that luxury fashion is a league on its own. It's a category on its own, and it has its own characteristics. Not really compare it to the normal retail. So we need to think about some, specific customized solution for that. But from privacy point of view, Kenza, the idea is we're trying to have a system that brings us visibility into the process and every step of the process. And this is for accountability reasons, right? Doesn't mean that this information will be shared with the public. This is more for, like, let's say, regulatory authorities who are investigating something, right? So regulatory authority would have access to this information. Also, we have this idea of private data collections where only few people have access to the data. It's not like when people think of blockchain, they're always thinking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and public networks that exist. But now we're talking about private blockchains, blockchains for certain industries, for certain players in the industry. This is definitely something that is very well controlled, and people who access the data are identified and authorized. And the idea is, if Dolce and Gabbana is producing something so unique, so fantastic, and hand so on, we want to give them credit. We don't want another, copycat to copy their designs and then just sell it with the name of Dolce and Gabbana. So the reason for this traceability and auditability and recording of the steps is that we want to be able to investigate if something is, authentic or not. But definitely this is in the hand of some regulators, not the public. Not everyone will see these details. So this somehow protects the privacy of the designer and the manufacturer. I hope clarify this point at least.
I agree with you, but like, how can I explain that? Like the privacy part, it's mainly like every big house. Now I'm talking about Dolce & Gabbana because I work there. They have their legal department, and they have all this kind of certification who would certify how this product is made, and all the the chain from the raw material until the end user. You get my point? So all these certifications are there, but again, even if you follow everything, you will always find counterfeit. Like, I was shocked one day because
Counterfeit.
I remember I went to the showroom to do the buying, and you're not even allowed to take photos. You're not allowed to take videos in the showroom when you make your for your new season buying. So when I came back, believe it or not, I went after like few days, like 10 days, I went to Dragon Mart and I found the designs there. How can you believe that? So it's really crazy. So even if you use the blockchain and you want to really regulate everything, you always have this person who will sneak into and will take photos and will take I know, like, you can feel the difference from luxury brand, from the fabric. The fabric is very different from a counterfeit to a real product. The stones are very different, so it's very, very picky. But when you talk about cosmetic, I'm not a big expert, but that's very dangerous because you touch the health of people, and you spoke about it. So privacy is still there. No matter what you do, you will still keep finding counterfeit. And I'm telling you, I saw it with my eyes. No one ever saw the collection, and there are cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
I think
I thought. Sorry, go ahead.
I think this is a very good point where I would like to bring in Shahira. Shahira joins us. She is a UWD alumni, and she's actually joining us today from Pakistan. And the reason I'm excited to have her here is because she's coming from the media perspective. Shahira, so you have heard everything everybody has said so far. What are your viewpoints?
Okay, first of all, hi everyone. This discussion takes me actually back to your WD. So this is really interesting. Moving on, I did hear everyone's perspective, the students and the experts as well. And I would just like to say over here that while technology has helped a lot of designers, it's also important to realize that a lot of designers who already established names in the industry, they have at several times been accused of copying products themselves. Now, in most cases, these are designs, let's say, from people who've created products but don't have enough exposure to market their products. For example, I don't know if a lot of you know about Paul Smith. Paul Smith basically came out with these lines of shoes which were inspired from the Pakistani Peshawari chappal. And in Pakistan, they're like a staple. They've been a staple for years now. People pair them up with shalwar kameez, which is the traditional dress over here. And the media actually noticed it, I think, a few weeks after he had launched his collection, the shoe collection. I could maybe post the link here in the chat as well for you guys to see. So while technology has helped designers, I feel that when it comes to originality as well, not all designers are always as original as they're supposed to be. From my own experience as well, I mean, even over here, when I see, I mean, I don't know about the other designers, but especially in Pakistan and a lot in India and, the South Asian countries, what I've seen is that all these designers who sell their products at a higher price, their products are actually made, like the cost of making the products is actually much lower than the ones that they sell them for. So for example, if they're paying the craftsman, let's say 100 dirhams per piece, they're selling it for another 10,000 dirhams. I mean, I understand that the marketing and all of that comes in between as well. But then you look at it from a larger perspective, it's also violating that person's, because at the end of the day, it's the craftsman who's talented instead of, I mean, I'm pretty sure, yes, everyone else throughout the process is talented, but it takes the main effort is of the craftsman, let's say, and the main designer who's providing him the designs as well to create. So I think that needs to be checked upon as well, because yes, we do talk about the designers and them excelling in their careers, but then we also need to realize that there are a lot of people who are responsible for that person's success, and not just the designer himself or herself.
So, Shahira, how do you think technology has played a part in this of what you have just explained?
I feel that since now more and more people are on social media as well, they're quickly able to recognize what has been copied from where, like even if it's not reported yet. Because on Instagram, I don't know if maybe people from India might probably be aware of this. There's an Instagram handle called Diet Sabia. It basically identifies all these designers that celebrities have worn in, let's say, their promotional tours or their fashion shows and so on, and it actually links it to the original design source as well, and they actually tell that this design has been copied from so and so designer or so on. I think that's where social media is playing a point as well, to help people recognize that a designer is, I mean, even if a designer is claiming to that it's his original piece or so on, at the end of the day, maybe not completely, but some part of the design is copied off somewhere. Also, over here, I would like to point out that a lot of designers and fashion brands have been accused of cultural appropriation as well. I think that is where social media plays a part as well. Because obviously, if people were not quick to notice that, they wouldn't have been able to identify the problem and how these brands are sometimes being problematic at the end of the day.
Right.
And then users on
how do you
social media
think
have
media has played? How do you what kind of role do you think media has played in all of this? Not just social media, but media.
I think media's job at the end of the day is to report. So yes, if they do identify these kind of things, they report on them. But then at the end of the day, it's the people who are consuming this kind of information and how they take it. And that I think varies from person to person. For some, it could be okay. For others, it could be not. Obviously, in terms of cultural appropriation, a lot of people have actually called out whenever media has reported on, a design copying some kind of culture or mocking any kind of culture as well. And a lot of people have actually said that they're not okay with that kind of behavior and have boycotted several brands as well because of the same. But then I mean, if you look at it from a better perspective, some designs have actually pulled off these kind of collections from their stores or from their online websites. Once they realize as well that they shouldn't have done this.
Right.
So yeah, I think, and then I think it helps like the brands interact with their consumers as well in a better way, whether it's media or social media, just so that it lets them know that these are the kind of things that people like, and these are the things that they're not okay with.
This is actually quite interesting, and it kind of goes back to Hisham and Faris from the customer's point of view, because in the 90s, how many of you are aware, Nike was embroiled in this whole scandal of using sweatshops and a lot of other problems that they had in their supply chain. And the way that went was in USA, students across campuses protested against Nike's sweatshops and decided to ban the brand from their universities. And the way they did that was very, very vocal and very visual. They had these huge bins outside the campuses, and as they would enter the campus, they would actually chuck the Nike shoes and they would walk in. So it was quite a strong statement that students had made, and which did have worked as a huge driver for Nike to actually, kind of clean up their act, so to speak. But that changed in between. In the last 5-10 years, the way it worked was, if you see Beyonce's Ivy Park label, which allegedly was using sweatshops to, in fact, Dolce & Gabbana slavery imaged earrings on the catwalks, to United Colors of Benetton stereotypical ad campaigns that had a huge backlash. Consumers have not actually been that vocal for whatever reason, right? So do you think now?
For a second, could you repeat it?
Sorry?
You chopped up there for a second. Your voice. Could you say that again?
Okay, so basically what I'm saying is while students used to be a driver for a good last 10 years, they have not taken a very active role. Do you think technology, social media has had a part to play in this, in making, consumers very immune to this kind of news?
First
Faris?
of all, I think, sorry, who's the?
Faris, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so first of all, yes, there's definitely been some sort of desensitization to the concept. When you hear about bad news constantly, every minute of the day, you're going to end up not caring. And even if you do care, you get called a snowflake, a keyboard warrior, all these terms that are supposed to be derogatory. And so, yes, I would say social media has been somewhat part to blame to people not acting as much. However, I don't think it's just a problem. I mean, as Dr. May previously mentioned, we have the capability in terms of technology to solve these problems. And even if students don't walk out, even if people don't make a big scene out of it, that doesn't mean we are unable to do anything. May I share something on the presentation?
Sure.
So this is actually what we were thinking about when we came up with the solution. Dr. May nailed most of what we were going to say. However, there's also the fact that we don't want it to just benefit the governments and so on and manufacturers. We were thinking about it from a customer perspective. And the idea here was there could be a sensor, as Dr. May said, QR code, or any other means of accessing the blockchain, which should be publicly available. Of course, part of it can be hidden, part of it doesn't need to be hidden. And once you scan this, you can see how this t-shirt, this specific t-shirt, got to this store. So you would see that when was it started? Who was the manufacturer? How did the supplies get? How does it get to this exact store you're buying from? Now, if you have a clear link between the firm and the reseller, then it's almost definitely authentic because the firm would have to, the manufacturer would have to say, yes, the firm did initiate it. And the firm does say, yes, I did. And the same link happens between each and every two stakeholders in turn. Additionally, in terms of social justice, which doesn't just affect the workers, it doesn't just affect governments, it affects every consumer, every customer. We're able to see, well, we propose to be able to see video feeds of what's going on. We propose to be able to see what's the quality of the manufacturing center. Are they treating their workers fairly? Because again, it's our social duty as humans to not just care about ourselves. It's to care about the general world. That's why, altruism is the thing. That's why heroes are usually, so those who sacrifice themselves for the better good are said to be heroes. And the same applies to farms. So many people are vegan because of animal cruelty, and I think we all love meat, so we know how difficult that must be for them. And farms, sometimes they also treat their stock unfairly. The distributor, we don't really need to see a video feed, but it does tell us how it got to our store.
Right.
So in short, like to answer your question, maybe people have been somewhat desensitized. Maybe it's just that people no longer want to speak out of fear of being ridiculed. But doesn't mean that it has to stay this way. It doesn't mean that this is how things always will be.
Right.
Our opinion.
Fantastic solution. Just going back to Shahira, from what he's just said about the solution and about desensitization, what role do you think media is playing in this? And what kind of technology do you think they're using or they should be using to remove the stigma of desensitization of news?
Hello?
Shahira, are you with us?
Can you hear me? Yeah, trying to unmute my mic. Hello?
Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I think he's right when he's saying that people have been desensitized now, but that's I think for all kinds of news. There's a term called compassion fatigue, where even when you hear of multiple deaths, people dying in different parts of the world, you eventually become desensitized to it because it's just become the new norm. Again, as he said, that that's not how it's supposed to be. But then I think when you look at it from a media point of view, the media, in fact, has given a lot of power to social media users at the end of the day. And people have now become they've become very powerful with those words. Again, most of these are just keyboard warriors, as he said, where they would call out these kind of things, but at the end of the day, when it comes to taking an action against it, not many are willing to do that.
Right.
I think in terms of media, what can do is they can keep reporting on the same matter and maybe developing how social media reactions have influenced, let's say, the brand, for example. Because at the end of the day, what happens is that even if people on social media, they keep calling these kind of behaviors out, unless and until the media does not report it, a lot of brands won't take action. It's
Correct.
only when these brands start taking notice that people are talking about them, and more and more people might start boycotting their brand. That's when they take action against it. Because that's what has happened with all these. I think it was Forever 21 or American Eagle. I'm not sure which.
Yes.
Again, as I said, with culture appropriation, and they had these sweaters that they released. The only reason that they pulled these out of the stores was because people were calling it out, and media constantly kept reporting on it. So I think that's where media can play a role in helping shut down these kind of behaviors, basically. But then also here, I would like to point out that from a customer's perspective, that I think one of the students pointed out that because of the fear of missing out, a lot of people actually want to buy these kind of brands. And then there was a talk about the counterfeit products as well. I think that with social media, when they have obviously brands or even these fashion influencers, posing with their latest, I don't know, sweatshirts or so on.
Right.
A lot of these people on social media, they actually get influenced by that. But then we also need to realize that not everyone can afford those kind of products, which is why they tend to go to these counterfeit products because they're comparatively cheaper. And until and unless you're like, for example, a fashion enthusiast, you can't really tell. So for man, it's very difficult to identify if the product that the other person is wearing is authentic or not. So I think it's also helped. Yeah, it's also helped those kind of consumers who want to fit in the crowd, but also who are all not able to afford these kind of things. So I just wanted to put it out there.
Right. Just taking that forward to Kenza, just like in 60 seconds, Kenza, if you could tell us, because social media is such a disruptor, how has that impacted big brands and the way they communicate with their consumers?
Social media has a positive and negative impact and on the consumer, because the consumer, what they see is only, for example, an influencer wearing their brands. But what the consumer doesn't know is the influencer doesn't buy the articles. They just get landed the articles and they have to give them back, or they are given as a gift. But the consumer, poor consumer, they love that, they love the way how it looks, and they have to go to the store and buy this 1,000 dirham article. So it's a fake ad. It makes people think that this is how the world works. Everybody wears that, everybody is super rich, but that's not the case. At the same time, social media does help because it's a way of bringing in front the brand, and this is where like the retail industry is like a jungle. So whenever one is posting something, the other ones are just posting 10 times more, and this is how it works. You cannot just stop and keep watching. You have to go in. You have to go and fight.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Before I close with Dr. May, I would like to throw this back to Adnan and Wael, because governance plays a huge role in how technology impacts fashion, irrespective of what stakeholder we are talking about, whether it's the companies and managing them, or copyright and intellectual property, or the consumer's privacy or social media. So from the perspective of the government, what do you think should be their way of looking at technology and in terms of bringing about policies and regulations? Adnan and Wael.
As a government, you don't want to affect the free market. So you wouldn't want to create constraints that would have negative effects. But on the other hand, you want to also pay attention to the market trends. So I'm having a hard time wording my answer. But for example, let's say I want to bring a point about the high fashion that we talked about. So Balenciaga's have a shoe called Speed. They're a certain sneaker, and what Zara did is what they noticed is a lot of people want to buy these shoes. They are currently very popular. So, but not everyone can afford $700 shoes, understandably. So what happened is Zara just made a copy that looks almost the same as the Balenciaga Speeds, and they sold for much, much less. So when you notice these little things, this is where social media takes place, where if you see someone else wear it, you would want to wear it. But on the other hand, you don't want to be caught wearing the ones that are fake and be known as that person who wears the fake ones. So as a marketing company, whatever, if you're aware of code in D3, what they do is basically, as Kenza mentioned, they would find an influencer with a certain number of followers, and then they'll give them the clothing, they'd wear it, and then they'll take the clothing back. But everyone else sees, oh, this really cool person is wearing these $700 shoes that I really want, but I can't get. So there are two options: A, be rich and buy it, and your other option is buy the fake fast fashion version, Zara version of the same shoe.
And if the government doesn't act in a situation like this, is that favoring free market or is that looking the other way?
Copyright is a very sticky situation where how much is enough for it to not be the same product anymore. So a lot of big brands would use, they'd find a very small, let's say a small designer that has a really nice drawing of something, and then they add a logo and a little bit more, and then they sell as their own. So where do you draw the line between, okay, this is a direct breach of copyright, and into, oh, okay, this is enough creative work that this does not constitute copyright infringement, even though you could kind of see, because Zara didn't face any kind of copyright infringement lawsuits over that shoe. And they do this constantly. A high fashion brand releases something, and then 2 weeks later, they'll have a copy that is almost the same, recognizably same, but not the same exactly. And this happens with Zara, H&M, with any high designer, whether it goes from the Yeezy collection to Dior, Alex, whatever you'd like. That is the part where the government will just have to decide when it is either or.
Fantastic.
Can I just add a word on that?
Yes, Kenza.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yes, very quickly. I would call it trend, because every like high fashion brand they have their own collection, but then they have the trendy collection that follows almost everyone. And that's where the other brands, the smaller brands, need to copy, and they have to keep going with the trend. So that's what we call trend. When you see like this season, everybody is wearing neon, it's because one fashion brand brought up neon and everybody followed. Then you have the denim one, and every season it's the same.
Okay. Finally, we will go to Dr. May. 60 seconds, Dr. May. From everything that we have just discussed, your final take on technology and its impact on where it's heading, where fashion industry is concerned.
Okay, thank you, Zina. So yes, I just wanted to add a little bit on the last point about the role of the media and technology in the fashion industry. So media and social media is in fact another type of technology, but a communication technology that gives visibility and voice to people, right? I think that definitely social media has given rise to some problematic things like influencers, promoting some products that they shouldn't be promoting and all of that. but at the same time, it has given voice to the young generation. And I think millennials and Gen Z are known as generations of activists, right? They're very vocal
Yes.
about these things. So it's given rise to them to, protest and shed light on shady practices and so on. So again, going back to the idea that technology is a tool, but it's the human behavior that will dictate whether something is ethical or not. So we have to choose how to use these tools and how we use them to our advantage to make sure that ethics are properly respected. In fact, so a closing
Fantastic.
remark on that.
With that, I move to Vidhi. Vidhi, I'm going to now share the Twitter poll. If you could take over and talk to us about the questions so that the panelists can answer. Vidhi, are you with us?
In the meantime, Suhaib had a question.
Sorry?
I can see Suhaib had a question earlier as well. Not
Yes,
on Twitter
Suhaib.
poll.
Oh yeah, I had a question for what Faris said. Is it okay if I ask it now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you said like you have like this blockchain solution where you put a QR code on like a shirt and it would show like the process of it being made. Okay, what's
We said
stopping
we
someone?
propose it.
Oh yeah, we propose it. Okay, so what's stopping someone who makes fake shirts from taking buying one of the real shirts and taking the QR code for it and putting it on the fake shirts? How would you prevent that in your solution?
So if I may share the thing again, just as a visual. Actually, I can't. Never mind. So as I said, in the diagram we had, it shows you how it got to the actual reseller, the actual store you're buying at. So let's say the legitimate store is called Store A. Then the QR code would say the Store A bought it from distributor X, but you're buying it at Store B. So how did Store B get it?
Okay, I see. So yeah, that answers my question.
Thank you.
Nice.
And another thing I can see is someone asked that if you add a QR code on your products, would it not ruin the style of the look? Yes, we did say on the diagram that it would be at the chest area, but just for illustrative purposes, it could be at the tag as well or inside the shirt.
Yeah, and
Because
also I want
there
to
are
add to
also
that.
circuit chips already are in the t-shirts. For example, when you go to the store, you will find a chip so that it guarantees that you won't leave the store without buying the product. So there are actually chips on the clothing as of now. So that will not be different.
Okay, and I want to.
I would
Yeah,
actually
I
just
want to
like
add to
to
that.
add. Okay,
Can I
continue.
go, Zobia?
Yes,
Then you
Zobia.
can go. Okay.
Okay, I just wanted to add something about the counterfeit products. I actually think that the young generation, like right now, actually prefer counterfeit products because they're affordable price and of the acceptable quality. There was this research conducted by Prakash and Pathak in India, where it said that the young generation would prefer counterfeit products, and I think that is something to actually talk about, like why this market for counterfeit product actually works is because there are people who want to buy this product.
I mean, we haven't seen that research. Perhaps it's too demographically focused, but I don't think, like as Ms. Kenza mentioned earlier, for people who are into fashion or professional firms, you can tell whether something is original or fake. And it really wouldn't look good if you walk into a professional area having bought counterfeit product. It really would show on the quality. Like I'm not really into women's fashion, but you can tell a suit whether it's well made or not, whether the material is correct just by the way it looks. Same with Nike shoes. Usually, you can easily tell if you've just seen enough without even being an expert. And the idea is maybe some people do prefer it, but that doesn't make it ethical.
Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Yes, just to answer this question,
Yes.
I think there is a difference between knowing that this is a fake product and choosing to buy it because it's cheaper, and not knowing, and someone trying to sell a fake product as if it's the original. This is the ethical problem that we're talking about. If I'm marketing something as a replica or a copy of something and selling it cheap, that's no problem, because I'm being straightforward with the quality and the origin of it. But if I'm trying to sell a replica as original and get a lot of money from it without giving credit to the original designer, that's a problem. The second thing is, as we discussed, it depends on the type of product. Some product, it doesn't matter if it's fake or real. If you're buying, I don't know, a t-shirt and it's not really the original one, it's not going to impact your health, right? But if you're buying fake cosmetics or fake medicine, this is a disaster, because it can lead to serious health issues. So we should distinguish between the ones that are, have health implications or safety implications from the ones that are more like luxury or supplementary products. Thank you.
We have another interesting question. Bhavika asked if fibers are made using technology, because I think who had talked about this? Zobia and Suhaib.
Yeah, fake fur.
You guys, yeah, about fake furs. So what Bhavika is saying is, if we use fake furs, won't the traditional producers like farmers get affected?
Well, the fake fur solution, like I said, it will be towards solving problems of animal cruelty. So, like, it won't affect farmers to defend, like, poachers. Like, for example, some endangered species, some special type of fox that's being endangered. They can create like a fur to like replace the need to get that fur from the species. So it will prevent animal cruelty and provide the customers with something that feels and looks like fur.
Yes, I think I agree with Sohaib's point, because when we're talking about animal cruelty and the fake fur, it's most of what is illegal of like from animals which it's not supposed to, and people do buy that because of, I don't know, maybe style or comfort. I don't think it's comfort, but maybe because to like more of a style, which I think is wrong and that should be stopped. So as a solution for that, that is the faux fur that can be used instead of real fur.
Fantastic. Dr. May, I'm just going to throw this back at you because we know technology is a disruptor for a lot of industries. How would you say people should look at that balance of what is traditional and what needs to be protected and what needs to get disrupted? Like Zobia said, if it's an illegal trade of an animal fur, then obviously that needs to get disrupted and stopped. But where do we draw the line when we're talking about technology, and how would we go about drawing that line?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I think that we can't really stop disruption. This is just the nature of life. Things will happen and will change, and new companies will come and innovate. Those who are saying, we have to stay traditional and not change anything, they will fade out and disappear eventually. So disruption is going to happen anyways. But the idea is, how much can disruption impact humans, right, in life or their lifestyle or whatever. So an interesting debate on that, for example, is related to automation, right? So in industry, when we are automating everything and workers will not have jobs anymore because factories are becoming fully automated, even deliveries and so on. So that's a key part of the industry, right? Where do we draw the line on that? There are a lot of debates. In my point of view, sooner or later it's going to happen. We will not be able to stop industries from adopting these things, because simply they save them costs, right? They save them money and they make their operation more streamlined and efficient. But I think that as human race and civilization, we have to adapt and find new types of jobs and tasks to do, that leverage more creative energy and thought and ideas, rather than these, mechanical tasks that were given to robots and machines and stuff. So this is where we have to draw the line. How creative can we get to replace these old jobs that are being taken by whatever automation or technology, and create new opportunities for people, And it's not an easy question to answer, obviously, but seeing the evolution of of careers. I don't know, when you see people who are becoming dog whisperers and people who are bloggers and people who are, you know, all these kind of new jobs that we never heard of 5-10 years ago. I think we are creative enough to come up with these new opportunities. It's just a matter of the will, right? So I hope it answers a bit the question.
Yeah, I think we have time for one more question.
There's a question on Twitter for won't adding blockchain to the fashion industry add in more chances of it being hacked and lead to more negative implications? So I think just a quick clarification there on that. As long as the website isn't being farmed, so as long as the person knows the website is correct, which is an easy enough solution to attempt, just buy all similar domains, then the whole idea of blockchain is that it's not easily hackable, almost impossible. Maybe Dr. May can give us more on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty complex solution that consists of a network of thousands of nodes, right? If you want to hack the system, you essentially have to hack all these nodes. The probability of this happening is very little or slim to none. If you're able to hack these nodes, then there is collusion between all these parties, actually. Then we have a bigger problem on our hands.
What level of corruption would that be?
Exactly. So then this is something that technology cannot solve, I believe. But from technological point of view, it is quite safe for now.
Okay. I think with
I,
that, we are
I
going to.
agree with that. Yeah, like I just wanted to say that I do agree with
Zobia, is
that
that
when
you?
yes, this is Zobia.
30
I just
seconds.
wanted to say that okay, sorry, I do agree with that. And like, you know, when you talk about any technology or something that protects information such as blockchain, there are a lot of risks to be calculated, and I think hacking would be one of those risks. But taking in account of that, as Dr. May said, the chances of that happening is very low. So I think everything has its certain risks, but the pros of it outweigh those risks. That's why that is better than the alternative.
Okay, with that, we will conclude the panel Majlis for today. I think it's been a very engaging session. We've actually almost had 1.5 hours of engagement on the panel. And I must say, usually even in a physical classroom with, 50 plus, 100 plus audiences, we barely go 1 hour, 10 minutes max. So I think it's really been an absolute pleasure. The topic that we've discussed, of course, was about looking at technology and how it is impacting the fashion industry in terms of design and innovation. And we've looked at it from the designer's perspective, where majority of the feedback has been that it is a boon. Definitely it is helping designers. From the governance perspective, yes, there are some lines here and there which are very difficult, because sometimes we would call them a trend, so we wouldn't be sure where to draw that line. But there are enough governances out there that are helping to ensure that the disruption isn't too bad. And of course, from the customer's perspective, again, we've seen a lot of positives. We've had our experts in the panel who have talked about from the technology being, yes, but definitely it is a boon, a huge advantage, because it will give certain degree of transparency to the entire industry, from every from the manufacturers and raw materials to the designers, and the distributors and the consumers. So definitely there is that need for trust. We will help with the technology protect all stakeholders. And as Kenza mentioned, that there will always be certain level of copyright infringement and counterfeiting that will always happen, because that's what people want to do. It's not the technology, it's the people involved who are actually deciding to do that. And finally, from Shahira, we heard about the role really media has been playing, particularly social media has been playing in bringing out the problems that are there in terms of counterfeiting and so on and so forth. And how it has helped people become more activists towards certain topics that might be very close to home. So overall, I think very engaging discussion that we've had, and we are hoping that not just our speakers, the student speakers, but also the audience that was there today, that you guys took away some really good points. I see still there are chats coming up, so people are really engaging with the topic. Thank you so much, our experts, for your times, and of course our students for being so well prepared. Well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.